Tell us a little bit about the operation Admiral. What's the basic of this investigation and what did you find out?
So this investigation targeted firstly a company. So the mother case started in Portugal. It was a little company in the middle of the country that declared quite a huge turnover. And for that reason, of course, the tax authorities red flagged this company and reported it to the National Prosecution Office. But at that time, they believed that there were no damage in Portugal, and for this reason they couldn't investigate or prosecute this company there. So it stayed like this for 1 year until APPO will get operational, and in that moment they reported it to the EPO, the tax authority themselves, and in this moment we started the investigation. Of course, we started with the assumption that we didn't knew at the time where the damage took place, but nevertheless, as a APPO area, it doesn't mind. So we start the investigation, and wherever is the damage, we'll decide afterwards. After this first step, so we started the investigation, we were able to link this specific company to a complex supply chain that was spread over all the EU, where the goods were sold and many persons were quite repetitive. So they appeared along the chain, indirectly, not directly. So we could understand that there is a kind of internal market just for VAT fraud, where persons are aligned altogether for committing this type of fraud. So they see the EU market as an investment opportunity due to this VAT system that is based on the trust between the companies. And for this reason, we discovered all these connections between the companies, and the investigation started to grow and grow to detect more legal persons and to open new cases. So this first case allowed us also to detect other VAT cases that were spread in the different member states and requests for the opening of cases, and we end up with many cases open and many companies under investigation as well.
What is your main finding in this case? What's the system that you uncovered? How does it work? How did they? I understand that's like a big sum that they stolen from taxes.
I think that the modus operandi is not new. It's something that is happening in the EU for many years. So we have this carousel fraud, typical one, with many companies that are set in purpose just to simulate the transactions of goods, whereas they are staying always in the same warehouse or in the same place, just to be able to be refunded with VAT without transmitting effectively the goods. And for that we have big organizations that are also working for years, different nationalities. They are based most of the times outside of the EU, and they are putting in place the different schemes. What they look is to opportunities in the law. Let's say, for example, they started with the carbon credits, so the VAT fraud with the carbon credits, quite old system. They moved to VoIP, and now, for example, they are also starting more and more with electronics, second-hand vehicles. So they look at the opportunities that the market provides in terms of prices in order to start this scheme. In this particular case, it was mainly with electronics, but the group also conducted other type of frauds. The main finding, I might say, it's not about the modus operandi, it's more about the connection between the different parts. So until that point in time, the national authorities were very focused on investigating their own part of the scheme, so these fraudsters, these companies, and through the EPPO were able to have this holistic view where we could start from the beginning until the end of the supply chain with different type of investigations. And then of course the potential that the internet provides in terms of marketplaces, payment services, so allowing persons to create shops where we don't have a face, a person behind. The same with the payment accounts, so they are depersonalized completely. It's very easy and quite appealing for criminal groups to use. Yeah.
So you mentioned that in the Admiral case, the main object of activity of this fraudster was the selling of electronics. Just like for regular people to understand, how did they do it and how they avoided to pay the taxes, and can you estimate like their let's say gross revenues, because you identified the fraud, the missing taxes, but how big was their business actually?
So the fraud starts always with the inter-community supply. So it means that a given company will transmit the goods without paying VAT. So it means that in member state A, we have goods that are transmitted to member state B without VAT, and then the fraud starts. So then in the supply chain, you will find the company that is called the missing trader, is the one that is the phantom company or the company that will disappear, the mailbox. And then of course they will not give back the VAT while the goods will continue in the chain with the appearance that the VAT was paid, but it was never. And in the end we will have a company that is called the broker that will request for the VAT refund, so getting back the money that was never paid at the first stage. So it's where fraud takes place. Of course then the main goal of the groups that are behind is not only to receive the VAT fraud, but also to place the goods in the market at a good price so that they can take some additional profit. And that's where the marketplaces enter and where they put the goods at disposal of the clients. Before that, of course, there is all a, how can I say, commercial machine. So they are very well aware, they have a very strong structure, they can understand which products are the most profitable, which products the customers are needing more in the given period of time. So they are in the marketplaces, they are in the WhatsApp groups, in Facebook, trying to understand which of these products are the most searched by clients, and then they orient their activity to these products. So for example, we had from iPhones at the time, it was the big commodity used, and now for example more and more AirPods. So these kind of little products that are easy to move but are quite expensive. So the higher is the price, the higher is the VAT rate that will go up on it. I mean, the rate is the same, but the value that will be generated is bigger.
What was the scale of the fraud that you detected in this case, in the Admiral case?
So if we consider all this cluster of cases, so there are many cases that we open, we have this 2.2 billion euros of damage that was estimated. Of course, this is the VAT that was due, and it's not completely what the organization will earn. So the organization will earn the profit margin from the sale of goods. So yeah, they are not collecting the VAT, but they are of course having a bigger margin profit, and they are also somehow manipulating the EU market, because at that moment they are able to put in the market goods at a price that will never be possible at in the regular supply chain, paying all the taxes. So that will not be possible. And that's where they take the profit. It's not very easy to define the overall profit. We have it for the mother case, and hopefully very soon we'll release this amount. But for the time being, we cannot estimate.
But in this case, we can say like the group was having a business that was like in the billions, right? Their business model was like fraud model was gross revenue of billions, right?
Exactly, billions. So if we are speaking about 2.2 billion of VAT damage, it's 23%. So we can estimate something around 20 billion to 30 billion euros. What we detected, of course. Yeah.
Wow, this is a corporation.
This is really, I can say that it's a corporation and it's a market that is just for VAT fraud established at EU level and controlled by specific groups that are now identified by the Apple.
And how were these guys organized? How was their structure? Was there one leader? How did you manage? What did you manage to find out?
As said, there are many criminal groups that are operating there, and each one of the groups is well structured. So in each one of these groups, we have a leader or two leaders, it depends, that are working on a partnership and define really the strategy of the organization. Then of course each organization cooperates between themselves, they ally, they establish protocols, agreements in order to share some areas, to benefit from some commodities. For example, to link, because VAT fraud doesn't happen only in an isolated space. There are other criminal activities linked to VAT fraud. Money laundering, drug trafficking, cigarette smuggling, everything happens in connection with VAT fraud. And of course all the groups are aligned in order to share and to cooperate in this framework. But each one of these groups is specialized usually in a region, on a specific commodity or on a specific technique. And they have persons working in different segments. So we have the head, usually we have an operational part, so it's led by an intermediary, and we have persons that are creating the companies, that are recruiting frontmen or strawmen, the ones that are in front of the missing traders, etc. They are creating all the corporate structure to enable the fraud. We have a lawyer segment as well, so people all dedicated in law, EU law, national law, in order to understand which ways they can use to be more efficient on committing VAT fraud. There are also the other part that is a logistic part, so the movement of the goods. It's a part of the organization that is also dedicated to move the goods across the EU, on usually finding the best routes to avoid the controls of the authorities.
And who are these guys? Or they are just like organized crime, or just mobster, or who, what's their, let's say, daily persona?
They are businessmen, mainly. They are not the usual fraudsters. They are persons with a quite high level. They are well placed in the societies where they are acting. It's safe to say that Dubai plays a great role here. So most of the groups are using or leveraging in this jurisdiction for committing VAT fraud. And they usually are also very close to the financial system, so to the banking system, with good connections also there.
This case, in Admiral case, did you detect also politicians or people with lobbying networks?
Not political level. We don't have any information about this connection. Only with the financial system in this case, yes.
And talking about the financial system, how did they launder the money? Is there a pattern that you observe, or?
The way they used to launder the money is already known, of course, but never at the scale that we observed at this time. So we have a multinational structure in different member states used to launder the profits of VAT fraud crime, but not only. So we cannot say that this structure was used only for VAT, because all the money was coming to that bank accounts in this professional money laundering organization was able to launder the money for all the type of crimes. So it's very difficult then to just isolate what is coming from VAT fraud. And the money was laundered via compensation scheme. So it means that some money was made available, and in return there is a transfer made to another bank account, and then it follows all a circuit and it comes back, but the cash was delivered. So it's, let's say a person needs money outside the EU and a person needs money in the EU, basically the exchange. The EU person will wire transfer the money outside the EU, and the cash will be made available to that person not in
This
Europe.
is the system from Israel, like the laundering system.
Yes, it's all similar. So it's alternative banking system that is also used. Yeah.
And in this Admiral case, did they construct their own laundromat, let's say, or they used something that was in place already?
They used something that was in place, but mainly for money laundering, and they used also for VAT fraud. So that was the change. They entered into the market of the VAT fraud between 2010 and 2015.
So we discovered also a group of launderers.
Yes.
Okay, and who are those? Or in the EU, or?
They are a bit everywhere, I would say. In the EU and outside the EU. So, yeah.
Okay.
The logic of the professional launderers is to be a bit everywhere.
Right. I'm interested in this case. We know that there was a component in Romania and in Bulgaria. Can you share a little bit what was the role of Romanians and Bulgarians in this scheme?
The role that we have identified is still under investigation, so we cannot reveal much of what happened there at this stage.
Not even like pattern?
In terms of patterns, we have identified companies that were set there as well for the transaction chain, supply chain. But in terms of concrete, what happened specifically, we cannot mention at this stage.